Hey, welcome back to the, I guess it's the Dan and Dan show now for Spartan, World Wrestling Live. And we're coming to you today with some really cool stuff. They have what's called an adult death race up in Vermont.
The storm. It's coming.
I ain't quitting.
So what? You cut a little fucking piece off.
It's a motherfucking death race!
And we have one of the three finalists on, and we have Andi, and we have Dan here because I am not familiar with everybody. I'm going to say, welcome to the show. Dan, take it away.
All right, well, appreciate it, man. So again, we have Andi Hardy here, who is one of our captillas for, I know does a lot of our hurricane heats and a lot of our organization of all that. And this year is up at the death race. So what we're gonna just talk to people, because we're putting this in front of the wrestling community, Andi. So, really fit athletes, people who are, they're aggressive anyways. They like being uncomfortable. That's the nature of what they do. And, as we were talking about this, I could not think of anything more uncomfortable and more out of a person's natural elements than one of our founding events, right? The death race. So if you wouldn't mind just talking about the death race itself, and then let's talk about how this year went.
Right. So the death race it's known because we have a quote, "You may die." Of course, we're not going to let anybody die, but it is designed to push people way past their comfort zone, way out there, challenge them to do things they've never done before or wouldn't do on their own. I mean, who wants to do pencil rolls, rolling through stinky fish scales? Nobody's going to go buy fish scales and do this in their yard, So we push people to their limits physically and past them mentally and also emotionally. Like we want people, you might be so extremely fit athlete, but if you don't have it together mentally, you're not going to make it through, because it's 80% mind to get you through the death race. So yes, you do have to be fit or you're not going to make it through time hacks that we have. And this race was designed really just to be the most extreme race on earth. And sometimes this race lasts 60 hours, sometimes 70 hours, sometimes 72 hours. You don't know going into it. When you start, you don't really know what you're going to do. You don't know if there's going to be obstacles. You don't know if there's going to be mental challenges, physical challenges. You don't know who is going to be there yelling at you or telling you what to do, or if they're being nice to you. Are they really being nice to you? You just don't really know what's going on. And so it's a tough race to train for because you don't know what to expect. So it's very different from our normal Spartan obstacle course races, and very different from even hurricane heats. Hurricane heats are a little bit of a bridge between the obstacle course races and death race, but it's a very extreme race. And so yeah, it was designed to just push humans further than imaginable in what they're able to do in lots of different ways.
And I think one of the misconceptions of death races, we do two of these a year, right? We do one in the February-ish area, and then just did the one here in June. And I think people will go, the one in June must be easier than that really cold one in February. And that would be a really big error to make, right? For somebody to go, I'm going to try to get to the one in June because it'll be easier. It's anything but easier, right?
Right. It's just different elements. A lot of people are scared of the cold. Me being one, I was always scared of the cold. Like, this cold scares me. I've gotten hypothermia a couple of times in my life, and it's scary. And so I was always scared of the cold. So what did I do? I signed up for winter death race and was a participant myself because I was afraid of that. A way to face fears. So a lot of athletes want to face their fears, whatever it might be. But yeah, being cold is one thing that people are very scared of. And I didn't die. I didn't get hypothermia even. I don't think I was even cold, to be honest. But it, it's all in your preparation. It's all knowing what your body needs and what you think you might need. But summer can be very cold too. I've watched athletes get hypothermia in the summer death race. That the water is very cold when we have them go for swims. And if it starts to rain and the temperatures cool down and now we're at 60 degrees and we get a cold rain, that's another thing people can get hypothermia for. So the weather, it can be really hot. Some people don't fare well in 85 degrees. So that could be an element that is hard for people too. But no matter which one you decide, or, winter or summer, there's going to be physical and mental, emotional challenges that are going to be very hard. Typically winter doesn't go as long because of the danger of the cold, but you never know. This February, we might have a very long one. You never know.
And we have on the phone with us, one of the 3 folks that finished, right? So I'm gonna let you just have a quick conversation, do a little introduction, that kind of thing, so people can get to know. Since we're not able to see on a video right now, but I think Dan's gonna put some pictures and video on there as we actually present this. But just to maybe have a little quick conversation where you're maybe not yelling at them right now, and just talk a little bit about what this one in June is like.
And just knowing, yelling is not always part of death race. I'm a little I don't yell as much as maybe some other people. It just depends on the personality of whoever's doing it. I feel like, you can still get people to do things. You don't have to yell at them. But so that sometimes is a misconception. We do have a couple of staff members that like to yell, and then we have others that are going to push you to your extreme limits and almost kill you by just smiling at you. Or in the case of Norm and Matthew, laughing. So
are you saying Don Devaney yells at people? Is that what you're trying to say? I can't imagine he'd yell at anybody.
Don yelling. So we did have 3 finishers, and Scott Telford is one of them. And so he's here with us today. So Scott, first of all, thank you for taking the time. And we just never know. When people register and I start sending out the pre-race emails, I usually, if they're people I don't already know from Hurricane Heats or from Spartan Races or friends from other, backgrounds, I just try to imagine who they're like. Sometimes I go on their Facebook page, kind of look at them, figure out, what they're all about, size them up a little bit. But yeah, Scott not being on social media, it's hard to know and hard to predict, who's going to make it and who's not. And I think death race is like a lot of different races. You can make a prediction, how this person's, you look at OCR, you look at the elites, and you kind of have an idea, which athlete's going to win or get on the podium or finish quickly, which people might struggle a little more. But with death race, you just never know. You never know. You don't know what they've been doing, preparing. So I'd love to hear from you, Scott, too, a little bit about why you decided to do death race and how you prepared for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for having me so much. This is cool. The death race was a very humbling and I will even say fun experience. It really was. It took me out of my comfort zone, like you've already said, and pushed me to really see what you're capable of. I've done a lot of kind of races and events in the past, and everywhere kind of when Warrior Dash started was the first mud run that I'd ever heard of. And it came to St. Louis, which is, I'm kind of from the Midwest in Illinois, real close to St. Louis, got the opportunity to do that and Tough Mudders. And, then you get into these other things. Go Ruck came around. A good friend of mine got into Go Ruck, and they do some of these harder endurance events and things like that. And I was in the military back in the past. It seemed like something to be interesting, but I was only doing at a maximum these 12-hour events and not getting crushed, but, definitely outside of your comfort zone. It's through the night. You're muddy, you're dirty, you're sweaty, and you come out the other side. That was awesome. You hug everybody, you've made new friends, and you can see kind of what you were saying, these individuals that are these high performing athletes in different realms of what you would call obstacle course racing or different mud runs, things like that, endurance events that are just, you put them on this pedestal of they are this most amazing thing, and there's no way I could ever get to do that. I definitely was never the fastest or the strongest person, either in sports in school or in the military, but I kind of could outwork other people. If it was a longer duration thing, I kind of had the stamina to keep at a certain pace or level and keep going. And then I've been told 100 times over that I'm just this weird person that when I'm really suffering or it really sucks, I'm always nice and smiling and cheering other people on. So I kind of put that in my pocket. I went through and did Go Ruck's 48-hour event last year, team assessment, and then met a friend there, ran an Ironman for the first time. That was super cool. And talking about the February race, one of your finishers from this year is Julie Mears. She is an absolute badass. I mean, one of the toughest people I've ever met. We used to train at the same gym. She is also my neighbor, literally lives a mile down the road. Every time I run or I ruck or I go down that pathway, I see her, talk to her all the time. Kind of got this idea of attempting Spartan Race as this next level of longer duration, how far can I go sort of thing. And she immediately kind of hit me up and we conversed about it. And she's like, absolutely, if anyone else can, you can go do this thing. So I got a lot of tips from her, built a 5.5-month training plan. So as soon as we came out of New Year's, I finished a different event and completely shifted gears, went straight to Spartan Training, which for me was going to be a lot of carrying out objects. So buckets, logs, sandbags. Unfortunately, in the Midwest, she did explain to me this mountain trail to go up to Shrek's cabin. And, the biggest incline change we have here is like the height of a cornfield, literally like maybe 8 to 10 feet. So I had zero ability to prepare on going up and down 30-ish, 45-degree-ish incline and decline multiple times like we did. And that definitely really wrecked me and hurt me. So going back, I would definitely train or find a way to get that going. But I did a lot of stairs, step ups to try to prepare for the incline, getting wet, getting dirty first, and then a lot of longer distance, longer duration, carry out object sort of stuff.
Wow, that's
Yeah, you got Dan here going, yeah, no.
yeah, wow. And I just I pulled up I know you can't see me, but I pulled up the picture from I got a background here, but I pulled up the final picture where I believe you were standing in the middle and you had 91 on one side and 82 on the other. I guess that was Tony and Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I grabbed that, but I think I was asking, I was picking my son up and you guys were coming in for the race. And my son was saying that, I don't know we talked a little bit off the air before we got on, and maybe Andy can tell me what happened. My son said that there were people that they either showed up late or they were not registered or they did something. And he said, man, I just went through 5 or 6 days of this. And then I felt terrible for these guys because they were making them eat full bags of marshmallows and roll down the hill until they pretty much vomited.
There were pre-race challenges. So for every death race, there's at least one, if not a couple of challenges that we put out there for athletes to do. And that's kind of our way of saying, hey, are you really serious about this? Are you taking your training seriously? Are you really going to show up? Because a lot of times people sign up, but they don't show up. A lot of reasons. Some are legitimate reasons, of course, but some are, they get scared. They didn't train. But we try to give them something that really lets them know, hey, I need to be on top of this. And for a lot of people too, if they make a public statement, I'm doing the death race this summer, and they make that public statement, that's going to help keep them accountable as well. So we have a reason why we do these challenges. And they had a couple of challenges to do. One was to do a news outlet, which back in the early days of death race, athletes had to have a newspaper article written about them. But now with all of the new media, social media, and all of the new ways that we have it, we allowed them to do, it could be a newspaper article, it could be a magazine article, it could be online newspaper or some kind of news outlet, a story about them, about their name, where they're from, what they're doing, what is a little bit about death race, trying to make a statement. Also, just to spark some interest that a lot of people don't know that we have these extreme events out there. But yeah, just to hold them accountable. And then the other challenge they had was a social media challenge where they had to make a quarter disappear and do some magic trick. It had to be a magic trick. It couldn't be just like, oh, here's my quarter. There it is. It's gone. It had to be some sort of magic to it. And the whole theme of this death race is no quarter, which if you know the lyrics of the song, it really means no mercy. And so we got a little literal with it as well and had quarters involved, which added a twist to the whole event. But anyway, they had these 2 challenges that they had to do, and they had to submit them by a certain time. And there were very specific directions on what they were supposed to do. And so some people did not read the directions carefully. They did the challenges, but they didn't read the directions carefully. So therefore, fail. Some people just didn't do them, or only did one of them, or missed the deadline, or for whatever reason, if they got a fail, then they got to do an extra task at the very beginning. And so that's what all of that was about. Either you passed or you failed. No in between, well, I did half of it or I kind of did it. But even their magic tricks, I watched every single one of them. And if I felt it wasn't magic enough, fail. You choose.
Based on what Zachary was telling me, there were no winners rolling down the hill eating marshmallows. It seemed like they all lost. Telford, did you have to do that?
I did. Yeah. So I did attempt or do all those media challenges. I did the one where I made the quarter disappear using physics instead of magic and science. So I did the light refractory, pour water into a glass, and then you can no longer see it because of the camera angle. And then I did the news outlet. I actually got to a friend of the family is a news anchor and weatherman out for a news station in North Carolina. And I got to do a really good online video interview with him. A lot of our friends and family that kind of watched and cheered me on liked that so much that now that I finished, he reached out again. I reached out to him again, and we're going to do a follow-up interview next week and go through all that. And he's going to post that on the news and everything and go through that. So that'll be pretty cool. But I'm sure I did something wrong, missed it. I'll tell you what, I know what the other group that didn't have to do those pencil rolls did. And I think that was a benefit. If you could keep your stomach from being upset, I think that was a benefit.
And you got to eat marshmallows.
Yeah, well, see, they weren't. I don't know where that came from. I didn't have to eat anything. I don't think anyone else was. We were just rolling. But then
was it marshmallows?
I
thought he said he thought he saw marshmallows. Maybe he was seeing marshmallows after 5 days.
Right, maybe that's the foam coming out of their mouths.
Yeah, I would just say it was worse as we started to roll and other people did get sick if they didn't have the wherewithal to get far off of the roll course. So then it's literally the first day I don't know, by that point, we done med check and in doc like 2 hours in, and you're rolling through other people's vomit. It's like, all right, this is going to be a long weekend.
So again, Andi, I know you made a couple comments, and we want a couple different things. One, we want to be able to, celebrate the fact that we just had this, I believe 32 people started. Is that the right number?
Yes, 32 official starters. We had 33 start. We had one that was not really a racer, but kind of was messing with people. So we had 32. I mean, so I just say we had 33 really start. And he had the option. He could have continued going. But yeah, I think we had, I don't have the facts in front of me. I think we had like 57 that were registered. So several, different things come up in life and things happen, but some of them a lot of them that didn't show up will be back for winter. So,
and so we're already lined up. We're going to be doing this again next February and next June again for 2023.
Yes, 2023. We have winter already scheduled. The registration link is already out there. For summer, we're still getting the exact date straight, but it'll be right before 4th of July. So probably like July 1st, 2nd, right in there. So that's the plan. We're going to align it with our kids camp that we offer and also our Mount Sparta 24-hour challenge that we offer. So they're all kind of, on the farm around the same time. So, but yeah, it'll be announced in the next few days. It might even be up there already today. I'm not sure, but we've been talking about it back and forth with Joe. So
okay, and we'll make sure too when Dan puts this, posts this out there to the wrestling community and on Facebook and stuff, we'll get that link in here so that they can, those who want to go try something that they're probably never going to do anything like it ever in their lives.
Is there an age minimum for the death race?
Yes, you have to be 18.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so that way we can get out there and do it. Again, I do want to give a quick shout out to what, again, the hurricane heats that happen throughout the entire year within the Spartan community. I believe it's a great place to at least go try an endurance type thing that is not an OCR race. The 4 hours, a great one to kind of start, because it's a lot of, from my experience, it's a lot of teamwork involved in the 4 hour one. Then the 12-hour one starts to again, you talked about the fact it's overnight. For someone like me whose bedtime is 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning really sucks, even if there is nothing hard going on. But it's even worse when you're, dragging a sandbag or your pack, or, I believe somebody on this call has a real likeness for the burpee mile. I'm not gonna,
Yep, I'm mentioning any names there. Heavy carries. Yep, hurricane heats, you're definitely going to get introduced to the elements, the building blocks to what you would find in a death race.
Yeah, and then we have something coming up here at the end of, again, I get a little plug for the one coming at the end of the year in Florida. For anybody who's in, within driving distance or whatever of Florida, we'll be in Lake Placid, I believe, or down by Sebring, Florida.
It'll be the same venue as the OCR race. We have a 24-hour event. We have a 24-hour coming up in Austin in a few weeks, and a couple 4 hours, 12 hours throughout the year. We have a hurricane heat trifecta weekend in October in Joshua Tree, California, which is amazing. If you've never been to Joshua Tree, it's an amazing location in the desert. Very hot during the day, very cold at night. But we're having all three, a 4 hour, 12 hour, and a 24 hour all in one weekend. So anybody who's thinking, hey, I might want to do a death race, great training prep to come to a hurricane heat.
What, sorry, Jessica.
No, you're good.
Telford. What would you, a few questions, as we get further, I think I would love to know, what was that one challenge during your 70 hours or however long it was at the farm that maybe you were on the verge of breaking, man, this sucks, right? And then now that you've experienced the death race, what would you tell people to do to prepare themselves for it? Obviously, people can. You can't, like she said, you never know what we're going to throw at you, but once you've experienced at least the kind of the map of it, what would you tell people?
Right. Sure. Yeah. So, great questions. Not trying to sound cocky or confident, but I've been yelled at before, and I've kind of put my head forward where no matter how bad you're hurting, the rest of these guys are hurting too. And I learned a long time ago that if you focus on someone else and cheer them on and say, hey, even though we are competing against each other, it's not a team event, it's a race. You say, hey, listen, we're going to be okay. Let's keep going. That really takes all the pain and hurt or whatever you're thinking about off of you. And it really does work. That is tried and true. That being said, there was an evolution where I'd kind of leaked up. I don't remember his roster number, but his name is Cullen. And through talking, had actually done the 48-hour Go Ruck team assessment in the same class, and we both finished it together. Didn't recognize each other. You're so tired, but you kind of start talking about it. It's like, holy cow, we were at that same event, and so he and I kind of stuck together. And we were coming in. It was literally the third night. Maybe 9 or 10 p.m. It's dark, and we had to check in after doing all the laps up and down to Shrek's cabin. And Don was there in his cheerful self. And basically said, you need to go do this next task because we sucked at whatever it was. And we had to go down to the covered bridge, get in the river, pick up 40 pounds of rocks, carry it to a new trail that we had no idea where this was going to go. And there's just follow the new yellow tape, and then do whatever. There'd be someone there to catch up with us. And basically he said, listen, save yourselves the aggravation now, because it's a time hack. You already moved too slow in last evolution. There is absolutely no way that you're going to get this accomplished. And it was just the two of us. And in my mind, I'm still like, nah, hell with that, man. They may kick us out because they've been cutting people the last 2-3 days. I get it, but I'm not going to quit. They're going to make us, they're going to make me stop. And totally was like, all right, Colin, let's go, dude. Come on. and he kind of stopped and paused and kind of had his own spiel to say and quit right there in front of me, in front of Don. And I couldn't believe it. And now I knew that Ivan and a couple other guys were ahead of me. I knew that from the beginning of the start of the race, they said there's only 3 skulls. There's only going to be 3 finishers, no matter what. I knew I was close to the top, wasn't sure where. But then Don's yelling, get the heck out of here. Your time's already started. And I wasn't going to quit, but that was probably the lowest point that I had. And then you couple that with the 60 plus hours, and I'm going through a new trail that I had not been on the entire time with only a headlamp, and it's dark. And I definitely hallucinated really bad. I'd never had that happen before, but I talked to a rock that I would have sworn was Abraham Lincoln. I saw snakes everywhere. It was weird. I'd never had that happen before. And all the times in the long duration of being awake, it was strange. And you kind of got to snap out of it like, come on, man, we're all right. And then luckily, I'm halfway through this trail working on getting lost. And here comes the other 2 guys that were ahead of me that had also gotten lost. And now it's like, okay, let's stick together and figure this out together and get to this new cabin, Miguel's cabin, and figure out where they turned wrong, where I was still okay. And it really planed out, and it was a relief. And we got to the next evolution, still screwed that up, had to do 250 burpees, but we're still in the game, still in the race, and still able to move forward.
That's awesome. And now, I was with Team Florida, the wrestling team, all weekend, right? And one of the questions I asked them was like, what advice would you give your younger self or the other kids coming through now, right? So I would almost say, what advice would you give the future death racers that are going to come through that maybe have not experienced this yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Find a hill somewhere, man. You got to find a hill, because that mountain trail up to Shrek's cabin kicked my butt. I was still able to keep moving. I've carried heavy stuff through a lot of different things, but the angle, just the sheer steepness of up and down, beat my lower legs up really bad. So I would definitely say focus on moving a lot of weird things up and down hills, and then always do stuff tired. So whatever your schedule permits when you're going to train or be able to train, there's times when, for my schedule, it had to be first thing in the morning, but you literally just woke up. Make it harder no matter what. Don't have a cup of coffee. Don't do anything like that. Work out on an empty stomach, only water. If you can and have the ability, work all day Friday, and then set yourself up for a 6-hour workout, and you're going to start at midnight Friday night and go into Saturday morning. You can't replicate 60 or 70 hours of being awake and moving like this. There's just no way that without someone else forcing you to do it, I don't think you could. But get out of this every day, 7 a.m. in a clean gym, that's got air conditioning or heat, and you're comfortable. Get out of that, get outside, get stuff dirty, get yourself dirty, and do things when you're tired. That
sounds like pretty sound advice, especially as I'm sitting down here in Florida going, find a hill. Great. I think we call them overpasses here in Florida. So
you're going to do one, right?
That is the plan. Yes, the plan is I will be. So my 55th birthday is just before the 2024 death race. So that is that's my wife's birthday present to me will be a ticket to the death race. So.
And Andi will be there waiting for you.
Yeah, in fact, if Andi's not going to be there, she'll come back just to.
Yes, I'll come back. Yes, I'm not here.
I'm okay with that.
Sure, that happens. So yeah, that's
Andi,
great.
how many of these have you done personally?
I personally have raced one myself. I've been at a lot of them. I've done a lot of other things that are, long, many hours, several days types of things. But technically, I participated in one death race. Yeah,
about the hallucinations.
People, I've worked at them, I've volunteered at them, whatever. But there's a lot of reasons why, but I won't get into it. Right now the show's not about me, but
so when he says hallucinating, I saw you shaking your head. You're like, this shit
Oh
really
yeah,
happens.
it's not a death race if we don't get people to hallucinate. Yeah, I've hallucinated at a gogi as well, doing a gogi and doing long things. It's the mind. It's you are sleep deprived and you're nutrition deprived, and your brain starts thinking. I always see great things though. I always like my hallucinations. I see rainbows and bunnies and squirrels and dancing and parties going on. I see golden tree houses, and I told everybody there was a golden tree house that was 40 feet tall, and Joe built it, and we were going to have to climb it, and and people, what are you talking about? I'm like, the golden tree house, it's right there. Do you not see it? Like, Joe had it made special for us, and you believe these stories tell, and it is a whole different experience, and your brain is just playing games on you, really, and that's why we have a very, very robust medic team to watch out for that. Because
and what was and I don't know, Andy or Mr. Telford, whoever wants to answer this, for us out there, because I had these questions. I came back and asked Dan because I was at the farm to see my son, and then I kept seeing you guys post like 10 more quit, 5 more quit, like it was like. And then I was asking, like, what are the eliminations? Obviously, one way to be eliminated is you quit, but you can't just see. I was under the impression that it's kind of endurance based. So if you can just last 72 hours and do all the tasks, you could finish the race. But from what I understand, completely not the thing. I mean, you can get eliminated even though you're not a quitter or going to quit, right?
there's standards. Yep, there's standards for a lot of different reasons. One, it is a race, and it's not necessarily a team event, even though sometimes there are things that we have all the racers do together or as a group. Typically something is, work on the farm, like labor intensive work or whatever it might be. That might be as a group, they're working toward this, or whatever the task might be to give back to the community. Or they may go in a group like they did to, over on the other side of the road into the forest, into the blood route trail, kind of a group for safety purposes. I mean, even though, we want to push people, we don't want somebody to die. We really, truly don't. And so we're going to take precautions to make sure people are safe, even though we're going to push them so far that it's going to be on that fine line. Is this safe or not safe? And we're going to push them. But for safety reasons, the medics have the right to pull somebody if they feel like physically that person is going to injure themselves for life, because that can happen. People are so bullheaded. People, athletes like us who do these things, we would do anything to reach a goal, right? Sacrifice our body, sacrifice our life, even, we really press the limits. But if medics or staff feels like somebody is going to be injure themselves for life, that's not something we want. You can come back to another death race, or if mentally they're just not stable, they're delusional and they're past that, where we feel if they get lost, they're gonna be gone. We're gonna have to send a search and rescue party after them. So medics evaluate them, and if staff feel like, hey, this person is just not in good shape, we refer them to the medics to make the best choices for people, for their health and safety. We want them to come back and to see another day. So that's one reason. Another is, it's a race, and the coveted skull, that's prized possession, and not everybody gets it. And for some people, they come because they want that skull, and that's the only reason they're there. And some people come because they want the journey. For a lot of people, the death race is a journey, and it's to meet your demons, to either overcome them or learn how to walk with your demons. I say I face my demons in the death race, and I learn to walk with them. And so, because I feel like they're never going to go away, but if you learn to walk with them, that's one thing. But everybody races for a different reason. And some people, they just want that huge challenge. Nobody wants to fail, right? Nobody wants to fail. Everybody wants to finish. But honestly, my biggest things in life have been failures, and that's where I've learned to grow. That's what's developed my character. That's what's made me want things more and to try harder. But Yeah, so it's a race. We're not everybody's going to finish. We're not going to allow that for one, because it is, it's a very different race. It's not like the OCR race where you go, you do it. You might take 1 hour to do a sprint. You might take 5 hours to do a sprint, but you get the medal at the end. Death race is not like that. It's very, very different. We want people to have an experience, a life-changing experience. And we believe that life-changing experiences happen when you are pushed way past those limits and you are forced to, you're going to make it or you're not. So we have time hacks. We have certain challenges that you have to meet certain requirements to be able to move on. And again, those time hacks are based on a lot of different things. So as we design an event, we talk about, we figure out like how many, not necessarily even how many, but sometimes it's a time, like people need to make this in 3 hours, or they're going to be eliminated. Or maybe we're saying we're going to take the top 50%. The rest of you, sorry, come back another year, maybe train harder, work harder. So there's different reasons for what we do. But yeah, and we don't always decide how many people are going to finish. Sometimes more people finish than we thought, or sometimes less people finish than we thought.
It just timed if 10 people finish all the times that were required, then those 10 people finish, but you might still only give the top 3 the skulls, right?
But there's so many challenges within it that they can be eliminated from other challenges. Like the biggest time hack that they had was about what, I don't know, I can't remember how many hours in it was, probably 18, 20 hours in-ish. They had to go up to Shreks and back, and they had a certain amount of time that they had to do that. And only so many people were going to make that time hack. And if they made it, they moved on. If they didn't, they stayed back. And several reasons for that. One definitely being safety, because we knew Blood Route is next, and Blood Route is a very dangerous trail. And if you have people who can't keep up, then all it becomes is a hike. And we're only moving as fast as the slowest person. So there has to be decisions like that. But then after, in the Blood Route Trail, they had some challenges they had to do there, came back, they had other challenges where you have to, there was a challenge where they had to do so many laps and only so many people, I think it was only 7 of the 8 people were going to make it. So one person was going to be eliminated. So now
so you have it set up. You have it set up where
Right. So it's not, there are points of the race that are a point-to-point race as well. Like, obstacle course racing, you go from one obstacle to another obstacle to another obstacle, and whoever gets through all those obstacles first wins, right? But in this race, there are a couple, sometimes we do a race like that where there might be 5 things that you have to do, but you can do them at your own pace. And if you finish those 5, you win. But then there's others that we do this segment, and there's not necessarily a winner of that segment, but can you make it through this segment so you can move on to another segment? And so it just depends. In winter, we had different segments like that. And then the last, I can't remember, the last 12 hours or so, 18 hours maybe, was a point to point to point. And we're like, all right, whoever's left, ready, set, go. This is a race. You have this challenge, and then you have this one, and then you have this one, and then you have this one. And if you can make it to all of those by this time, you're done. You win, or you not necessarily win, you finish. If you don't make them by that time, you're out. And with each challenge had its own time hack. So not only did you have to make it to the end through all those challenges, but then you didn't have to wait for anybody. You could go. You might be on challenge 4 while somebody's still on challenge 1. So every race is designed differently with different purposes. And Joe has say in them. He used to be there all the time, but Joe has so many things going on now. So he has entrusted it to some of us, but Joe has say in every death race and what we do and the event plan. And he has say in, I want this involved, or I want that involved. And so we try to honor, because this is one of Joe's founding races of Spartans. So.
Yeah, it's definitely near and dear to his heart. That's for sure. You hear him talk about it. You can see he gets excited as he talks about it. So, all right. Well, so we are going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining us again. We thought the wrestling community needed to hear about more about Spartan overall. And then as we start digging into it, so we've talked to the folks from DECA, obviously when we talked to the kids camp earlier today, we've actually had some OCR stuff on, but then we just knew that Death Race, it has a special place. I guess it's one of the founding parts of the whole Spartan community, been around for a long time, going to be around for even longer time. And just the absolute coolness of it, to get it in front of some different folks, some people who may not be in our ecosystem right now, and give them something to think of as they look at what they might want to get into. So thank you for the quick introduction to what it is.
Thank you.
And
Obviously, thank you, Mr. Telford, for coming on. I know you're at work, and we don't see you, so sometimes we forget you're up there in the corner. But thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Telford, and congratulations on being a finalist at the Death Race.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate Andi and her team and the whole Death Race team. They are so professional. They put on an excellent event, and I'm already rolling around. You may see me in February. So
We'd love to see you. It's a whole new ball game, Scott. A whole new ball game. So we'd love to have you. But, yeah, so thanks for inviting us and having us, and to all the wrestlers out there, we would love to have you. And what's going to make you better in your own sport? Challenging yourself outside of your sport. And we would love to have you take on that challenge. So thank you guys for your time. Appreciate you.
all right,
You take care.
appreciate it.
Thank you.